I, Ms. Vidhi Solanki, graciously welcomes to all the guests, hospital pharmacists, academicians, and students across the country for today's webinar. The topic for our today's webinar, a patient-centric service by the pharmacist in the hospital and in community, organized by D.Y. Patil University School of Pharmacy in collaboration with D.Y. Patil Hospital Pharmacy and Western Region Center ACPI. I would request everyone to mute themselves to avoid any further disturbances. I would like to call Dr. Rakesh Somani, Sir, Principal of D.Y. Patil University School of Pharmacy, to share a few words for today's webinar. Over to you, sir.
Yeah. Thank you, Vidhi. Namaskar to everyone who has joined on this platform. I, on behalf of D.Y. Patil University School of Pharmacy, welcome each and everyone for today's very informative session by none other than Dr. Suresh Savardekar, who himself is a great personality in this particular field. In fact, just to share that I was looking for Dr. Savardekar since last 10 to 12 years. Somehow I was not able to get in touch with him. And in due course of time, probably 2-3 months back, I could reach to Dr. Savardekar, and that is how we culminated in today's webinar. I'm thankful to you, sir, for joining us on this platform.
Thank you.
Yeah, so just to share my thoughts about D.Y. Patil University School of Pharmacy, as there are many people who have joined across the country for this today's very informative session. As Vidhi told, that this session is being jointly organized by the hospital pharmacist of our own hospital, D.Y. Patil Hospital, Navi Mumbai, which is one of the biggest tertiary care hospital in the city of Navi Mumbai, and has been a great support to Navi Mumbai Municipal Corporation in the COVID era. Also, we are partnering with the Western Regional Center of Association of Community Pharmacists of India, WRC ACPI, where our school is the headquarters of this particular organization. The WRC ACPI comprises of 5 states starting from Rajasthan, Gujarat, Maharashtra, Goa, and Karnataka. And there are many mentors of ACPI who have joined this particular webinar. I welcome each and everyone on this platform. I also welcome our students, our faculty representatives, as well as the ACPI mentors, members, the executive body, members of the ACPI, all the pharmacist community and hospital pharmacists on this platform. Sir, I wish to tell you that D.Y. Patil University School of Pharmacy was established in June 2019, and we are just a 20 months old baby running 2 courses, that is diploma in pharmacy and degree in pharmacy so far. We are going to expand in near future. Also, in this 20 months time, we have conducted more than 40 webinars, 4 physical conferences, and many activities which are student centric. Our students are basically, at the epicenter of all our thought process, and our all activities are for the student and by the students. And that is how the entire workforce of this particular school is engaging for the betterment of the student. Just to tell you that we not only work for the betterment of the professional knowledge of the student, but we believe that the 360-degree development of the student is very, very important for making them the better human being and great professional. And that's why we work towards the body, mind, and soul of the student, and our all activities are centered towards that. I request all the participants of today's webinar to please visit our website, that is www.dypatil.edu/School of Pharmacy, for better understanding of our activities. I once again welcome each one, right from the ACPI family, from the D.Y. Patil Hospital, from the academia and the student community who are joining this webinar. I'm sure Dr. Saravardekar's talk will be a great input for all ACPI members as well as for all community pharmacists who wish to listen to him. I will not take much more time and would request now Vidhi to take the program forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Today with us, we have Dr. Suresh Saravdekar, sir. He has worked as a state head for procurement for medicines and medical devices department for more than 30 years at national level in public healthcare services. He has also worked for development of standard operating procedures for procurement, storage, and inventory control guidelines, and for rational use of medicines for all state-run hospitals across the state of Maharashtra. Now, I would like to call upon our guest speaker for today, Dr. Suresh Saravdekar, sir, to have a talk on the topic, a patient-centric service by the pharmacist in the hospital and in community. And I request everyone to put the questions in the chat box, which will be answered at the end of the session. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. I am not able to get there. Share now?
Yes, sir, it is visible.
No, but this screen is not going. Your screen?
Sorry, sir.
No, I have to see the presentation now.
Yes.
The screen. Okay.
Sir, there is a blue screen. I think it is your screen only, right?
Yeah.
Ha. So you can just go ahead now.
No, but I am not able to see that screen now. Okay.
Yeah.
So now everybody is able to see?
Yes, sir.
Right, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So thank you, Dr. Subhaniji, for giving me this opportunity for sharing my knowledge with the pharmacy community. And this is my actually very interesting topic. So I will directly switch on to this. I also thank you for the D.Y. Patil Institute for giving me this opportunity. So all over world, you can see that, 1 minute, I have to take this down. Okay, so all over world, currently the medicines are being used by the people under two modes. What I mean by two modes is that medicines for self-care, that is self-medication, and medicines for sick care. So here what we see, is that the screen is not going. Hello?
Sir, we are able to see your screen. You can,
Okay.
now, yeah.
Yeah. So that is a self-care, is a self-medication. The other one is the care, sick care through the healthcare providers like pharmacists, doctors, and nurses. So these are the two modes of using medicines. So but we can see that there are three main ways of using medicines by patient: through community pharmacy, through self-care, through medicines available over the counter, what we call is OTC drugs, community pharmacy serving sick care through prescription only medicines, and hospital pharmacy that is giving prescription only medicines in the hospital. Okay. So now in self-care, what we can see is that the patient as well as the healthcare provider both are blindfolded. You can see both are blindfolded. What I mean by blindfolded, they know very little about the medicine use. Why I say so? Because you know that the all over the world, medicines market is continuously evolving, and you can see daily medicine, newer and newer medicines are being added, marketed by using newer techniques of marketing day by day, and it is becoming very difficult to cope up with the pace of technological developments. New medicines coming and new medicines are marketed. So there is a law which is given by our thesis, or we can say this is the contention of Kenneth Arrow, which was a Nobel laureate economics. What he says that if buyers know less about a good, that is here in a medicine, than the seller, means the manufacturers or marketer, then the buyer suffers from information asymmetry or handicap. What does that mean? if as a buyer, as a patient or a provider, as a pharmacist, I know very little about the market, then what happens is that I suffer from a information handicap, or I lost the most of the information. I work on the incomplete information. So this information handicap makes me, the physicians or pharmacists, blindfolded. So what does that mean? Is the blindfolded, and hence both are vulnerable to many myths and assumptions. So
पापा ने
medicine.
फोन करने बस पापा पे को मेरा मांगा नहीं कोनी वैसे करने पाया 200 रुपए पड़िया कर बस
Please mute yourself. Excuse me,
The aim of this presentation will be today whatever people are well, as well as the healthcare providers or medicines are being used as self-care and sick care. However, both patients as well as healthcare providers are unaware of the positive and total negative effects of the medicines. The aim of this presentation will be to identify these pain points of medication management outside and inside hospital, understand and highlight these points and find out practical solutions to overcome it. By this way, by making the current scenario of patient-centric, you can say, services to be more patient-centric than the product-centric. So the part one will, this presentation in two parts. First is self-care, and second will be sick care. The use of medicines to self-care and use of medicines to sick care. So the first is self-care. So what is self-care? Self-care is the self-medication. Self-medication is defined as selection and use of medicine by an individual or a member of the family or a friend to treat a self-recognized or self-diagnosed condition. So doctors are not involved here. So the patient himself recognizes or diagnoses himself, like I had a headache, so I'll get a tablet. That is called self-medication. I have cough, then I will use a cough syrup. That is. So what are the two ways? There are two ways of using self-care. First is the legal or authorized way, where most of the, what we call it as a on-the-counter medicine or OTC medicines are officially allowed for self-medications, like medicines used for headache, body ache, toothache, cough expectorant, cough syrups, different types of ointments and all those. So these are OTC, on-the-counter product, for which prescription is not needed, and it is legally in most of the countries. So in our country also there are a list of OTC medicines which you can use as for a self-care. So there is another way these self-medications can be, you can say, extended, which is not legal, to use the prescription only medicines by as a taken for self-care. For example, antibiotics, which are prescription only medicines, but that can be purchased or sold without prescription. So that is an illegal way. So self-care can be through authorized way, legal way, through OTC, or through prescription prescription only medicines purchased or sold. So why and when people choose the go for self-medication? Easy availability, affordability. There are the thousands of generics are available in India at 1/4 or less than 1/4 price. So that gives what? Easy availability. So you can go to the any chemist and ask for the medicine, it will be. Then easy accessibility. Nowadays, online pharmacy, home delivery. So you just pick the phone, order and get the medicine. Some of the medicines, as I told you, are OTC, are legally available. Then why to go doctor when prescription medicines are also available by you can get from the pharmacist without prescriptions. So why to go doctor and pay the fee? Similarly, there are substitute nutrition foods, like to kill the weakness due to malnutrition. This I saw when I was working in Varanasi. Still I am working in Varanasi, one of the village. When I asked the village ladies or women, they said they do lot of work and then get the body ache and headache. Then I asked him how you get rid of this your body ache. They then say they will go to the pan wala shop and get the Brufen tablet. So they know even the name of Brufen. So to kill, so actually their weakness, their body ache is because of malnutrition, because of weakness, because they don't get a sufficient amount of food. But they use the medicines to kill the weaknesses. There are also overconscious people So they will always keep. One of my friend, he has got a lot of medicine stocks. He has a sale pharmacy at home only. Now Google is now taken as a doctor only. Whatever you just click the Google, ask for I want the medicine for this condition, then Google will give and get it. So there are herbal, Ayurvedic and homeopathic medicines which are also available without prescriptions, and they claim that they are very safe to use, no side effects and all that. So, and poor people, like I told you, the Varanasi women, I can't afford to go to the doctor, so take the medicines from the pharmacy. So these are the different ways and when the people use the self-medication. Now there are two main factors which are responsible for the self-use of medication. First is the government force and second is the market force. So what I mean by government force, government policies. And what I mean by market force, the different market trends. Now first of all, look at the government force. What is this? You look at the Indian spending on health in India is the lowest in the world. See, the top countries in Sweden, they spend about 9.2 of their GDP on health. France 8.7, Denmark 8.7, Belgium, Netherlands, all above 7% of the GDP. Look at our neighboring countries like Southeast Asia, Maldives, Thailand, Bhutan, even they are giving more than 2%. But look at the India, we are giving only 1% of the GDP on the health. So in the last 10 years, you can see we are not crossed above 1%. So this year they are trying, but not even 2%. This year also the budget is less than 1% only. So the indirect effect of this is that there will be more of out-of-pocket expenditure, high private expenditure. So we'll find that in countries like G7 countries, Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, UK and US, their out-of-pocket expenditure is very low, except US, which is say about 60%. But the countries like India, Brazil, Indonesia, where the government expenditure is very low, they go on or private expenditure or out-of-pocket expenditure, what we call it as. So government indirectly, government policies push the poor people to go on self-medication, go to the, without going to the doctor, they go to because they cannot afford the fees. Second is the market force. The market force is what? Now you know that newer and newer medicines it is very difficult to and very expensive to innovate a new drug. Second, lot of competition. You know India, how many drugs or medicines formulations are available? 2 lakhs, 14,000 pharmaceutical units. So there is a lot of competition. So the ethical market, which is what we call the prescription only market, is shrinking. So what pharmaceutical industry is doing that? They are pushing the global market to the another end. What they do is that more and more prescription only medicines are pushed to the OTC. So by different policies of the government, they will push some of the prescription only medicines to OTC, so that in OTC it is a free market. The another area is to create a mass commodity market. The prescription only medicines pushing to the first OTC, then pushing to the mass commodity, that is selling with the other products. Like see, Novartis has merged its OTC division with the GSK. So they can both market. So the same market force will be used for the marketing of OTC of Novartis along with the GSK's prescription only medicines, or with the consumer products like nutrition products. Here Hindustan Unilever Limited has merged with GlaxoSmithKline for their consumer. So this merging what will cause is that under this deal, Hindustan will distribute GSK's commodity drugs like Crocin, Sensodyne, which are OTC products. Those will be given with the nutritional products like Boost, Maltova. So these two forces, as I told you, market force and government force, they are pushing more and more medicines from prescription medicines to the OTC products. So that indirectly encourages the self-medication. So now, what is the current situation of self-use of medicines? Patient feels it is a master. Like this, right now, I have the medicines for, I take a blue pill, a purple pill, an orange pill, a white pill, and a yellow pill. I need you, doctor, to prescribe a green pill so that it will complete my collections of rainbow. So that is the patient's feeling. Secondly, if you see at this, one minute. Slide is not moving, that's why. One minute. Hello?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes, sir.
No, the 1 minute, the slide is not moving. Hello?
Hello. Sir, please click on the screen and then try to move.
Babu
On the
Katu.
screen? Yeah. Yeah, right. Thank you. So here also, the patient says that I already diagnosed myself. He is a Google patient, internet. I am only here to take a second opinion. So he has already taken the medicines and taken the advice from the Google. Here, this lady says that which celebrity should I follow to get the best medical advice? So advertisements is playing a very important role in promoting the self-medication. Same is the case. Internet is also promoting the self-medication. So now, which are the commonly used medicines which are categories of the OTC? Antacids, acid reducers like different proton pump inhibitors, antiemetic drugs, antidiarrheals, antihistaminics, cough mixtures, herbal products, as I told, painkillers. So these are the mainly used products which are given on OTC. Now, what is the condition of regulation? Now, OTC, even though it is freely available without prescription, it has to be regulation. Now, in developed countries, there is a regulation. Now, regulation in US, it is in since 1972, and they have got three categories. Category A, grace; category A, not grace, and cannot determine whether safe. What is grace? Generally recognized as safe and effective. So what we call it as it is OTC. In US, it is called generally recognized as a safe, effective, or grace. What is the condition in UK? UK, there are three categories. One, as per our prescription only medicine, pharmacy only medicines that is available. They are so called as a behind the counter, containing chemical strains, and the pharmacist can give without prescription. The first is prescription of a doctor, second is without prescription by pharmacist, and last is the general category where the medicines are available even at the general store. And there is a mechanism at regulation that on any complaint there will be recall procedure in place. The medicines will be recalled. So suppose if there is a complaint for crocin, a patient or a consumer lodges with the medical store or the pharmacy, there will be immediately recall of if the complaint is serious. Now, what is the condition in India? We have got a very lax regulation. Our aim is that to move that promoting self-care and reducing the cost of treatment. Our main aim is that because government is not able to regulate the market. So what we want is that more and more self-care should be there so that the patient should be self-sufficient to his treatment without compromising also of the safety of the patient. But now, what is the guarantee of safety of the patient? Is there a regulation? You'll surprised to know that till August 2019, there was no regulation. Drugs which are not under the schedule, there are different schedules. So non-scheduled drugs are OTC drugs. It is for the first time in August 2019, provision is being made by OTC to put under Drug and Cosmetic Act. And Drug Consultative Committee has been formed to list this over-the-counter drugs. Even today, the government doesn't have the official list of OTC products. And they are now thinking of put the stringent regulations of quality on advertisement and pricing. But still, it is on the paper. The CDSO decided that this OTC will be put into two categories, OTC 1 and OTC, depending upon their safety, therapeutic index, and evidence. But what is the current mechanism to ensure safe use? Nothing. There is no, till today, there is no mechanism for recall. For ADR complaints, no recall procedure is in place. So nor it is mandatory for the manufacturer to keep post-marketing data. If suppose the manufacturer is asked, what is the post-marketing data for using crocin? It doesn't have. So it's not mandatory. So there is a very lax regulation on OTC drugs in India as compared to the developed country. We have seen that there is. And it has just started in August 2019 only. And still it is on paper and not in the course. So now extent of use of OTC market in developed countries, in spite of this regulation, there is a mass commodity market coming up in developing countries. If you will be surprised to know that last 30 years, over 700 prescription medicine have been switched over to OTC in 30 years in developed countries. 73% of Americans would rather treat themselves at home to see and they don't see the doctor. Americans buy more than 5 billion OTC drugs products each year. That is 60% of total drug. 36 million Americans use OTC pain drugs daily. 30,000 people in UK are addicted to OTC drugs like cups, syrups and all those. And 70% are available in airports, then stations and mass mercantile and vending machines. So there is the extent of this is because of pushing of more and more prescription only medicines to the OTC drugs and giving the reign of medicine use in the hands of the consumers, which is good or not bad, let us see afterwards. Now, extent of use of OTC market. What is the extent of use in OTC? As you know that there is a lack of regulation. India has a track of purchasing OTC medicine. In rural India, about 73% of the rural populations are purchasing medicine through OTC. In metro cities, it has been found that 52% of the population, which has been seen in 10 metro cities, use OTC drugs. The market size, which was found out in 2018, is $3,773 million. Such a huge market in India. And there are average, you can see, pharmaceuticals used are amounts to the US dollar. That is per person. We can use it. So that is the rampant use of this is going on, and because of this emergence of online, which is presently at say 3 to 4%, in 2020 it is going to online sales are going to shoot up to 9%. So you can imagine how we are moving from the, more and more OTC drugs, how we are moving from self-care, from sick care to the self-care or self-medication. So this is a big market force working on it. So lax regulation at global and national level resulted in overuse of OTC drugs. So we are into the era where there is a drug, everywhere drug, and patients are using, medicines are being relaxed. So under this situation, the patients, do they know what are the hidden risks associated with self-medication? No, surprisingly, and very unfortunately, they don't know what are the risks associated with this. So now let's see, what are the hidden risks? As you are a pharmacist, you know that. Chronic use can cause various health problems like liver and kidney damage. Why liver and kidney? You know that. Every drug has to pass through the liver mechanism for drug metabolism and kidney to eliminate from the body. So all chemicals or medicines, when enter into the body, has to go through these two organs. So chronic use will damage these two organs. Then it can lead to the addictions like cough depressions. Consuming prescription medicines can result into side effects, interactions with NSAIDs, like prescription only medicines. If you use with NSAIDs like aspirin, they can interact with the drugs which are used with the for heart attacks like or antihypertensive. OTC medicines, if you use with other pathies like homeopathy, Ayurvedic, they can have a internal combination or interactions. Consuming certain medicines with food will have a severe interactions. So all these causes the different types of hidden hazards to the self-medication. Now, some of this I will just enumerate. Increase the risk of death. For example, in case of NSAID, the risk of myocardial infarctions the patient or risk of heart attack is increased when you use the OTC medicines containing NSAID. The NSAIDs also cause renal impairment. As I told you, the continuous use of this NSAIDs can damage the kidneys and liver also. Then there is a triple vampy effect, like ACE inhibitors, when combined with NSAIDs and diuretics, they cause the different types of effects. Then you have a risk of erectile disinfections also if you use NSAID for 3 months. Same is the case of abuse. These drugs are likely to abuse and form addictions. Most of these are cup preparations. Like adverse effects of dextromethorphan, decreased thermal regulation, dry mouth, blurred vision, or lot of these loss of consciousness and even death. That the abuse of these drugs. The other drugs like codeine preparations, if you preparations like a truck driver, if he takes the codeine cup syrup, he can get a drowsiness and he can meet with the these accidents. So it is very fatal to use these syrups, and you should not drive, you should not swim, you should not operate in machine. But we don't know, these patients or consumers, they don't know. It can cause stop breathing during sleep, noisy breathing, weak pulse, so many problems, urination, drowsiness. So these are the effects of co-preparations. On one hand, it causes addictions. On the other hand, it causes serious side effects also. So we always think that the herbal and natural medicines are very safe, but that is not the case. This is the FDA data. This is the painkiller powder, which is available in the market as Ayurvedic medicine, but it contains diclofenac and prednisolone. This FDA's data. Then cup syrup Ayurvedic, it contains again diclofenac and prednisolone. Though they call it Ayurvedic, it contains allopathic medicine. This is Kamakshi energy booster for men, which is used for erectile disinfection. It contains the modern medicine, sildenafil. So under the pretext of herbal or natural medicines, lot of these medicines are pushed by in the self-medication market. Then another is the OTC and prescription only medicine interaction. Like digoxin is absorbed, absorption is reduced in presence of aluminum and hydroxide, that is antacid, kaolin pectin. Aspirin, if it is taken with warfarin, it can lead to the excessive bleeding. NSAIDs inhibit the renal elimination of lithium, digoxin, and methotrexate. Antacids like cimetidine, ranitidine increase absorption of nifedipine and also reduce the absorption of itraconazole. And so these are a lot of interactions of OTC drugs with prescriptions. The patient is simultaneously taking prescription medicine from prescription of doctor, and self-medication is simultaneously going, but they are unaware of all these interactions. In India, there is a rampant contraceptive pills are being used by the youth. So this has been introduced in 2007. This is the first emergency pill, but you can see the market size. In 2014, it has been jumped from 88%, that is 67 crores. And India is ranking third after US and China for the use of contraceptive pills. So you can imagine how much the volume of use of contraceptive. And there are a lot of side effects. And even it causes obesity, then mood elevations, headaches, excessive bleeding. But the patients or the women who are using these contraceptive pills, they don't know. And who is going to tell them? Nobody, because it is self-medication, and pharmacist will just go and prescribe this. Just the lady will ask, give me eye pill, he will give. So we are really in a very bad situation. Now what we can say is that, what are the potential, just we sum up of this: incorrect self-diagnosis, delays in seeking. So you go on self-medication and don't go to the doctor, so that will delay the medical advice. Infrequent but severe adverse reaction, dangerous drug interaction. So antibiotics taking without prescription, and the stopping the medication or the dose in between, or taking the therapy or not taking the complete therapy will lead to antibiotic resistance, overuse of painkillers, kidney damage, negligence, masking of severe disease, because you go on taking antacids or antipyretics, analgesics. So that will give a symptomatic treatment, but will mask the disease which is underlying. Then there is a dependence. So these are some of the hazards. So you can see there is a rampant self-medication, but the patient or the consumer is not aware of what are the hazards of this. So now we go to that is the self-care. Now come out to the sick care. Now sick care is given by who? Healthcare providers like pharmacies, doctors and nurses. Now what is the status or situation of sick care? Let us see. The common risk associated with sick care are, unlike food, you can consume the food, but food is a natural, but medicine is a foreign to the body. So secondly, it is first is the foreign. Secondly, it is not selective in action. When once taken, it will flow through the blood all over the body and affects the functions of other organs too. Suppose you are taking some medicines which you are supposed to be used on lungs, but it will not go to the target organ of lungs, but it will travel all over the body through the blood and will have effects in other organs also. So in this way, it will produce adverse drug reaction and side effects along with the desired effects. The negligence. Then there is a polypharmacy, as you know that self-medications and prescriptions are given for medicines that will lead to the non-compliance to the therapy, non-adherence. Suppose many medicines are given in a prescription, 10 or 15. So you are likely to go for non-adherence. You are likely to forget to take the medicines. That is called non-compliance to the therapy. So the less the medicines, it is the better compliance. The more the medicines, the less compliance, non-adherence. So this will cause, all the medicines cause, I told you that the kidney as well as liver damage because they have to pass through these organs. So what is the medicine situation in India? Currently, Indian market is flooded with products. Before independence, we have only 500 APIs in 10,000 formulations. And what is the condition? Now, in 2019, it was 2 lakhs different formulations are available in India. So the whole market is flooded. Too many medicines in the market. So healthcare providers are vulnerable to 3 main safety risks. Polypharmacy, resulting non-compliance. More medicines, the patient will forget to take. He will not likely to take the medicine. That is polypharmacy. In a prescription, 10 to 15 medicines. More adverse reactions because of combinations, drug interactions, then there will be chances of medication error. So these are the 3 things that will happen. Non-compliance. Now we'll see the first non-compliance to the therapy. The polypharmacy worldwide, there is a more and more introduction of super specialties. Now, how polypharmacy is affecting? You can see there are one patient, too many doctors. So you have a ENT specialist, you have ophthalmologist, you have kidney specialist, you have heart specialist, you have coronary specialist. So all specialists and specialists are available. So everybody will write. So there is a one patient and so many doctors. So there a prescription will be too many medicines. That is a polypharmacy. And ultimately, how the patient is? The patient says that, the doctor says that, well, the Glaxo pill protects my heart from the side effects of Pfizer pill. That prevents potential liver failure due to Merck pill. That minimizes the risk of stroke caused by Novartis pill. That reduces blood clots caused by the Glaxo pill. So it is all the drug for medicine and drug for side effect. Sorry, medicines for effect and medicines for side effect. Now see this, polypharmacy. So each capsule contains your medication plus treatment for each of its side effects. So medicines for effects and medicines for side effects. That is, the prescription will contain so many medicines. So why there is a chances of non-compliance? I told you that the patient feel that, many of the patients that they are not needed to take so many medicines, so they will become forgetful. They cannot afford so many medicines, so they will omit some of them because of the cost. So they will stop medicine taking because of side effect. Some drowsiness is there, so they will stop taking medicine. There is the forgetfulness also, and also the what you can say, different types of lack of information. So they don't know about what is the hazards, what is the side effects, what are the adverse drug reactions. So all these factors they cause and lead to the non-compliance. So the patient will not take all the prescriptions because he feels he doesn't need it, he cannot afford it, he cannot identify, there are side effects, like all these things. Same. Now, adverse drug reaction. So the first we have seen that polypharmacy. There is a disconnect between clinical trials and real world effects. Now you know that clinical trials are done in very few number of patients, like tried in 3,000 patients or even in less. The clinical trials are done in one particular population or country or a race. New drugs are never tested in pregnant women, geriatrics and pediatric patients, but they are being used in all these. Like in COVID also we have seen now, new drugs have been not tested in pregnant women, geriatrics and pediatric patients, but they are likely to be being used on emergency basis. To find out the adverse drug reactions, some drugs have rare toxicities. You need to try it into 60,000 patients. This results in finding adverse drug reactions after medicines are put into the market. And as a result, adverse drug reactions are detected by the branch, what we call as the pharmacovigilance, during hospitalized patients and through post-marketing surveillance. You know what is pharmacovigilance? Pharmacovigilance is the vigilance. Be vigilant about the use of the drugs, especially its adverse drug reactions. So it can be done in the hospital and post-marketing surveillance. After the drug is prescribed, you have to inquire with the patients and develop the data on the adverse drug reaction. So these are the two sides, at the hospital and at the community. But community pharmacists need to have the data on post-marketing adverse drug reactions. So use of medicine always carries a risk. So you know that these are unnoticed, and you come to know this is a teratogenic effect of which drug? Thalidomide. So thalidomide was given to the pregnant women in Europe in 1960, and it caused these babies without hands or without limbs or directly fingers attached to the shoulders. So this is the teratogenicity. We came to know this teratogenicity when? After giving the drugs and after the birth of the children. Before that, we were not knowing what is the teratogenicity. We came to know 1960 only. So now the child which was born in 1960, you can see now it is 50 years old without limbs. So EDR or pharmacovigilance is a very important factor. Unless you monitor these adverse drug reactions, you are not likely to find out what are the side effects, what are the ill effects, what are the bad effects of the medicine used. Because I told you that clinical trials are tried in limited number of patients and limited number of populations. So this is very important to have a pharmacovigilance. So now, this is the general data studied by CNN, and what you can see that the majority of these drugs were trialed in 1,000 patients. So now they studied 35 drugs which has been withdrawn from the market during US market during 1970s. So look at this data. These are drugs introduced in the market, and then some of this you can see. The drug Propoxyphene was introduced in 1955, withdrawn from US market in 2013, when? After 55 years of use. So the ADR data was collected during these 55 years, and after deaths of 22,000 nearly patients, the drug was withdrawn after 55 years. Then pentylene tetrazole, which was introduced in 34, withdrawn in 82 after 48 years. Diethylstilbestrol, introduced in 1940, 1971, withdrawn after 31 years. Fenflurazine, introduced in 73, withdrawn in 98 after 24. See the gap. The drug was put into use, but withdrawn after 20 years, 20, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years. So all data collection was going on during this period. In case of Propoxyphene, 21,000 people died. We have seen the teratogenicity also. So this is very important that drugs are not just to be used as like that. They will not have any effect. So the incidence of ADR has to be monitored through pharmacovigilance. Now this is the data collections at world over. which highlights that how it is important. Now come out to India. There is a gaps in withdrawal in situation. Now India, before 2000, we don't have any post-marketing surveillance. Even pharmacovigilance started in 2005. Remember, 2005, I am repeating, before that, there was no pharmacovigilance available in India. And now also, after 2005, the total numbers withdrawn in India is 444. That is till 83. And those are mostly combinations or FDCs, which those combinations, only 222. Because there is no post-marketing data available in India till today. Now they have started after 2005 to collecting the data on ADR. So now what is, before 2005, what was the scene? If something withdrawn in the developed countries, we withdraw it. But there is also big gap. Now see, the drug like terfenadine, which was introduced all over the world in 85, America withdrawn is in 98. But in India, it took 5 years to withdraw in 2003. Same is estemizole. America was withdrawn in 2003, 1998, but it took 5 years to India to withdraw 2003. That is from 98 to 2003. Actually, what should have been happened? We should have immediately withdrawn, but we were just slipping it. Cisapride, which was introduced in 93, it was withdrawn in 2000. But after 11 years, we thought of withdrawing it in India. Why? Because we were just sleeping on it. So during these 11 years, whatever ADRs were suffered by the patients and so many fatalities must have been happened. And this is high topic. Isotretinoin, which was introduced in 85, withdrawn US in 2005, and in India, it is still in use. So what we are actually doing? So the pharmacovigilance data, the post-marketing data is very important. And even if we don't have, we are not careful about, suppose it is something is stopping in all over the world, why we are not stopping it? Why we are waiting for? This is really a very peculiar situation. Now another, like ADR, this is another medication errors. Now what are the root causes of medication error? The main is human error, like prescription, communication, wrong communication, name confusion, labeling, packaging and design. But the main you will find that human errors. Now what are the medication errors? Main, wrong dose given, wrong drug given, wrong route of administration 10%, wrong patient given 3%, and the others are 30%. So now, as you know, our doctor's handwriting, it is very difficult to, they say that the pharmacist only can understand, but for the pharmacist also it is difficult nowadays. So illegible prescription handwriting can result into dispensing of wrong medicine, wrong strength, wrong dose, wrong route of administration. For example, this happened in one of the hospitals where I was working. The prescription was written for tablet Diamox, which is a diuretic. The pharmacist dispensed it, a Dianyl, which is anti-diabetic. See, the patient, if he is not a diabetic and if he takes anti-diabetic drug, what will happen? So this is only because of the illegible handwriting. Now medication error at pharmacy level, this is a doctor level. Now in India, this is very, very interesting slide. Just look at this. There is no coordination between central FDA and state FDA. This has resulted in giving identical brand names to same different types of drugs. So there is no common or central database. How many drugs, if you ask for the particular CDSCO, how many drugs are identified or brand names? So you can very rarely find it. So what is the effect of this? The trade name Lona is given to low sodium salt in one state. The state brand name Lona is given to clonazepam in other state. Same brand name in case of AZ. AZ one in state, it is azithromycin. In other state, AZ is brand name for albendazole. The brand name AZ is also for alprazolam. And also AZ is A to Z multivitamins. Similarly, same brands have been given to Medzol. This is very dangerous. This you can see. Medzol is a itraconazole in one step. Medzol is a metronidazole. Medzol is esomeprazole. Medzol is pantoprazole. Medzol is albendazole. Really, we are playing with the life of the patient. These are all labels I have given you. So if this is the case, same brand name, different medicines. So if you carry a prescription for Medzol in say Maharashtra, you get itraconazole. If you go to the UP, you may get pantoprazole. The another hazard of use is that if the product declared substandard in Maharashtra, can be easily made available in Gujarat because there is no central database. So medication errors can happen because of same brand names having different names. So medication errors at pharmacy level because of counterfeit of medicines. This is the fake medicines and this is, you can say, the genuine medicine. You cannot find out the authentic and made. See the difference. They have just copied it. So this can lead to the medication error. Now see, this is look-alike medicines. Now these are 5 different strips of medicines. Now if you look at this without going through the label, they look so alike that you are likely to take or mislead. But if you look at this, they contain different medicines. Even on back side also, they look alike. So they contains one is a glamipiride, amlodipine, ondansetron, atorvastatin, and benzhexol. The 5 medicines looking alike, having 5 different medicines. So instead of atorvastatin, suppose glamipiride is given, which is anti-diabetic, what will happen? Instead of ondansetron, amlodipine is given, which is a drug for blood pressure, what will happen? So there can lot of medication errors happen at the nursing level because of this look-alike medicine. There are also sound-alike medicines. So if suppose the medicine is given on phone, so it will sound like then says Melaril, Elavir, Traxil, Trexol, Cerebix, Celebix. So you talk like you give the doctor is giving instructions on phone for Melaril, but the nurse understand it as a Elavir. So these are the sound-alike medicines. So they can cause also medication error. Medication errors at administration level. These are the 4 cases I will just tell you. So an elderly rheumatoid arthritis patient expired after receiving overdose methotrexate. So instead of 10 milligram daily dose of drug, you was advised 10 milligram weekly dose. But the nurse told him that 10 milligram daily dose. So in a week, the patient died. It's such a mistake. The daily dose, the weekly dose was converted into daily dose. The patient died because of 20 units of insulin was prescribed, but he was given 200 units of insulin. Then this is the case I found out in JJ Hospital, a wrong site of injection of diclofenac. A young boy was injected diclofenac injection on its biceps or the shoulder muscle. Actually, diclofenac injection has to be given in buttock muscles. So because of this injection in shoulder muscle, there was gangrene and the hand of the young boy has to be amputated, lost his hand. So this type of mistakes are one patient died because of anaphylactic shock after injecting radio contrast media. So before angioplasty, you know that these radio dyes, different types of radio dyes have been injected. But before that, a hypersensitivity test like we do into the penicillin, and the skin test need to be done. But nowhere it is done. And it can cause to anaphylactic shock and patient can die. So these are simple things can lead to the death of the patients. Medication error has to be looked at very seriously. Now, these are not only health hazards, but there are financial also toxicities. The health toxicities, we had, what is the incidence? 2.6 million people die every year in middle and low income countries. This is the WHO data because of medication error and ADR. 5 people die every minute from incorrect medical care. Then medication errors were 8 among the leading cause. In India, 5 lakh patients deaths have been occurred because of medication error because of lack of practical knowledge among the doctors and nurses to handle the patient when he brought to the casualty. This is Harvard University study. So 5 lakh patients have been dying in 2017 in India. So this is the health toxicity. Now what is the financial toxicity? The cost of prescribing the wrong medication can be up to the 42 billion a year. Suppose antibiotics given wrong antibiotics is given or given for a short period, not a complete course is given. So antibiotic resistance will be, patient stay will be increased. The newer costly antibiotics need to be given. So that will lead to the more expenditure. So how to summarize? Ultimate outcome of the medication management will result from the balance between positive and negative effect, which is good or bad. So the patient safety is of topmost important. So what is that? Patient safety is the reduction of risk of unnecessary harm associated with healthcare to an acceptable minimum. So what is this acceptable minimum? That it recognizes that errors, violations, patient abuse, and deliberately unsafe use acts occurring at healthcare are unnecessary incidences, and this should be avoided. This should be avoided every time. All ADR should be immediately treated, should be reported, then all medication errors should be minimized. Violation should not be done in use of prescription medicine without giving on self medication or without prescription. Now, how to assess the patient safety? By implementation of, I told you, pharmacovigilance or monitoring of ADR is very important. So the monitoring is what level you have to. So pharmacovigilance is the vigilant about pharmacone, which is the drug. So all stakeholders, who are the stakeholders? Doctors, pharmacists, and nurses. These are 3. So they have to vigilant for about and prevent the adverse drug reactions, side effects, medication error, counterfeit of medicine, drug interactions, and self-medication. They have to look at all these aspects before using the medicines. Now, look at the pharmacological interventions at patient level. What we can do? You need to educate the patient. You need to counsel patient to improve the compliance, to improve the adherence to the therapy. You need to educate the hazards of self-medication. You need to have a display information about the hazards of medication. Highlight the different types of, by flex boards. Like flex board should be in the OPD. Don't pop up medicines. Medicines are not candies or chocolates. Its habitual use can damage your liver, kidney. So such boards should be put into the OPD. There should be labels, read labels on instructions. So these boards should be displayed. Like I did in JJ Hospital. You can find this OPD, JJ Hospital, all these patient information on proper use of medicines displayed in our JJ Hospital OPD. So like this, you have to educate the patient. You have to counsel them. We used to have a patient counseling center in JJ Hospital, where I used to call each and every patient and ask them how to use, tell them how to counsel the patient regarding proper use of medicine. So our pharmacists were trained. Even in Sangli, we train the pharmacists how to counsel the use. So that is the pharmacovigilance at the use level. Then at doctor level, doctors, as you know, that illegible prescriptions. So we need to digital prescriptions. We need to have pop-up and menu driven prescriptions, which is related to correct dose, route, automatically. Yeah, sorry. Hello. Hello. So use of standard checklist for nursing, avoid errors, administration, use of well-designed medication. So SOPs and checklist has to be there for nurses, so that before giving it medicines, they will check and checklist. It should be then should we have standard operating procedures. Their education and constant training should be done of pharmacists and training. Then pharmacovigilance interventions at purchase level. So when you purchase a medicine at the hospital, so you have to do the risk assessment of labeling and packaging. Wherever significant risks are identified, alternate medicine should be used where the labeling is proper, packing is proper. If there is no alternate medicine that is the products, then the manufacturer should be changed. The label should be clear. So while choosing the manufacturer, you should look not only the medicine, but the label, its instructions, whether it is complete and whether it gives all the information. Then you have to have the standard operating procedures in hospital formulary so that the purchase procedure should be completely followed. Now interventions at regulator level, FDA level, what? The current design of the labeling is decided by FDA, but it is the packaging is prioritized industry. It is industry oriented. And what the FDA says that they rely on the assumptions. They assume that the doctors and healthcare professionals know everything and patients also know everything. So they just don't bother. So what and complete information should be there. So regulator has to be very cautious about giving all information. The result is the same trade names as we have seen. The same trade names have been given and localized medicines, then regulation. So there has to be an innovative labeling. Like these two drugs, chloropropamide and chlorpromazine, even in generic, they are likely to be misled. So here, while writing the drug or in the labeling, it has to be some tall capital letters like chloropropamide, palmide is a capital, mazine. So this will reduce the chances of error. So now at international level, some safety measures have been taken. Like there has to be a prominent generic name and not the brand name. The dose has to be prominent. The route of administration has to be prominent. So all these, name of the generic medicine name, then dose, the area, route of administration, that should be prominently seen. So the presentation at the formulations, now most of the medicines are given as per the need of the manufacturer. The formulations are presented should be presented into the ready to use administration, not as dilute unit dose, not as dilute after. So if it is as far as possible unit dose, no need of dilution, no need of making different strains. So the presentation should be such that it should be a direct dose given to the patient. So before that, there should not be no need for dilution, no mixing. If at all, if you are giving two drugs and asking the nurse or expecting the nurse to mix the two drugs before giving, so that should be avoided. Whatever drug should be given mixed preparation as soon as possible. Then special formulation should be given for you can say special patients, high risk groups like frail patient, elderly, pregnant woman. So that has to be imposed or broadly mentioned on the labels. Now pharmacovigilance at the OTC medicine, strict regulation, as we have seen, unethical marketing, regulation and advertising, strict control and proper labeling. The labeling or package insert should be in regional language, giving complete information, highlighting hazards of self-medication, label instructions for proper storage also, because I have seen the patients, they are not properly storing the medicines. Even most of the medicines, they are which are require some cold storage, or even at the cold place, they are not stored. The proper warning for the cough and other preparations. If they cough from preparations, they got drowsiness. So after taking these cough preparations, they should not go for swimming, they should not go for driving, they should not go for machine operations. These instructions should be prominently there. So that will avoid the accident. Now at international level, they have developed separate and very good patient at global level. Hello. So like in Europe, they have got the European, they have got European Medicine Agency, which called the risk management plan. Then, then at US FDA, they have got risk evaluation and mitigation strategy. In Canada, they have developed failure mode and effect analysis. So there are typical designs, and they have to properly, policies have been designed to prevent the adverse drug reactions at the minimum level, to prevent the medication error at international level. And we in India also have to follow these guidelines and develop risk management plan, failure mode and effects analysis for India. So, so now to conclude or put it succinctly, what presently in India, both patients as well as the healthcare providers are blindfolded. They know very little about the use of proper use of medicine. They know very little about the ADR. They know very little about the side effects. They know very little, even though they are pharmacists, doctors and nurses, they don't know how to use the drug properly, minimizing the side effects. So both at self-care as well as sick care, we need to have a paradigm shift. So what is that paradigm shift? We need to focus our attention from product-centric to patient-centric. So we need to have a paradigm shift from product-centric to patient-centric. The patient need to be at the center. And what is the take-home message of today's lecture? When we need to develop a patient-centric medication, what we need to do? Patient safety culture we have to develop and promote partnership with the patients, encourage reporting and learning from the errors, creates a blame-free environment where healthcare workers are empowered to reduce the errors. Now, there is a tendency, now we know that mistakes do happen and to err is the human, but don't cover up these mistakes, don't cover up it. You fail to learn. So if you cover up your mistakes, you lose the learning lesson. So you need to put the proper record of ADRs, inform it to the government. So there will be database, and simultaneously the database will create the adverse drug reactions, pharmacovigilance, and you can find out which drugs are to be withdrawn from the market, which are to be used, and what are the new adverse drug reactions are found out. So this database is very important because we have seen that the drug trials or clinical trials are done in very few number of patients, but this ADR and pharmacovigilance data is very, very important. So now the time has come that pharmacist should take the rein in his hands and plug all these gaps resulting into the unsafe use of the medicines. So where is the unsafe? When the drug or pharmaceuticals are being used, OTC drugs, non-pharmaceuticals, health products, nutritions, cosmetics, herbal products. So pharmacist has to identify and minimize all the risk associated with ADR, risk associated side effects, self-medication, and medication. So pharmacist has to play an important role. So why pharmacists? Because pharmacists know how manufacture is done, what are the different types of manufacturing process, what are the different types of labelings, how they can avoid the labeling, the different wrong labeling can cause. So these are the pharmacists in the better positions to know all these things of ADR, medication error, hazards of self-medication. So he need to educate the patient on hazards of self-medication. He need to educate the physicians and nurses regarding the ADR, incidence of ADR, medication errors, sites of medication education, and all those. So thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
All of you, listen,
Please
all of
mute
you, no need to say thanks. Each one should not say. Already one person has communicated the feeling, that's all. Okay. Yeah, Vidhi, please take it ahead as far
Yes,
as the
sir.
question answer session is concerned.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. It was a wonderful session. I will move forward for the questions. There are some questions from the students. So the first is, what do you think about the near future of pharmacy profession?
So now with all this review, the current situation of medicine use in India and world, I told you that the pharmacist is the main now. in the medication management, he has to play the main role because he is the person who knows what is ADR, what is medication error, what are the areas where medication error can happen. The doctors and nurses know very little about the manufacturing, about the medicines, their labeling, their all those aspects. But pharmacist is the only. So there is a good future. But what we need is that we have to, you can say, our syllabus and training of the pharmacists should be aligned with what is needed in the hospital. Like in hospital, what we need is the clinical pharmacist well equipped with all these knowledge, not only carrying PharmD and coming to us. We need to have hospital exposure. Then we need the pharmacists in policy making who will advise the policy makers and secretaries and ministers that what are the requirements of pharmacy profession, how the drug should be marketed, what are the hazards of self-medication. Who is going to tell all this to the government? The pharmacist only. So pharmacist has to be come forward and tell to the government. So these need at the government level, like I was in a government working as a state of Maharashtra. So by looking aware at our minister, secretary, I created the post of assistant director. So Maharashtra is the only state where the pharmacy is holding assistant director post. I created 2 posts of assistant director. How this could happen? Because of awareing, educating the policy makers, the ministers, the secretaries. So you have to come forward. You have to tell that these are the things I can offer you, offer the society. And for that, you need to have all these market studies, right? So it is a good scope.
Okay. Thank you, sir. There's one more. What are your views on ER 2020, Education Regulations 2020?
Education?
Education regulations.
What are the education?
Regulations of 2020 till 2020.
2020.
Yes.
Sir, I will just add into her, as you probably must be aware, that Pharmacy Council of India has recently published the Education Regulation 2020.
Okay.
You know, yeah, so it is a new regulation which will be probably implemented from the next academic year, that is academic year 21-22. So her question is, what are your views on that educational regulation, if at all you can?
No, the main I have found that after putting it last 4 decades working in government, I was working for the bar in government also. So what I found is that our pharmacists are not, presently we are preparing the, especially when I was, I studied, our whole syllabus was manufacturing oriented. So it was never hospital oriented. So now we have come up with the PharmD. So the PharmD should be attached to hospital. They have to be trained in the hospital. They have to take the rounds with the physicians. They have to monitor the adverse reactions. Then only they will get a confidence. It is not only pharmacovigilance teaching in the classroom, but what is ADR? They need to go to the sea. They have to go to the wards. They have to scrutinize or review the prescriptions. They have to, like in Bridge Candy Hospital, I did the review of pediatric wards. All 1 year prescriptions were studied, and I did a very good report. And I took this meeting of all pediatricians. Now you know the Bridge Candy Hospital, such a big hospital. But all the physicians were ready to listen to me. Pediatricians were ready to listen to me. There was a polypharmacy. The drug was given paracetamol orally as well as intravenously. So only pharmacists can find it out. So you have to train them on prescription review, prescription auditing. So for that, these people have to be 50% time in the hospital only and 50% in the your classroom.
Okay.
Then
Sir.
only,
Yeah, sir, I have a question here.
Can I add on earlier
yeah.
question?
Please, Dr. Anand Sherke, nice to have you, sir, here. Thank you so much for joining. Please.
That question may be a new education policy.
Yeah.
2020.
No, it is not about NEP, sir. It is about the education regulation.
Then that is
2020.
related with that diploma in pharmacy. They have changed new syllabus 2020, and that is now a lot of clinical and other
Yeah.
practical aspects they have considered.
Yeah.
And definitely it is going to be improve the thing. But ultimately, what medical sir is saying that yes, practical exposure is more required, and that too some dedicated person should have in hospital who under the these people will take the training, and then that will be the only solution.
Yeah.
Even the PharmD course is there, but still there is a problem about that. But anyway, somebody has started and definitely is going to help us. But hope that this new syllabus of 2020, this will diploma, especially this is for diploma education. It is going to be a change scenario.
Right.
The only matters is that the people are studying, they are getting good marks, everything, even the knowledge they are having, they are not implementing. There's some third-party strategy we should have as a FDA food and drug regulation. They're about the patient counseling. Someone has to start somewhere. At least दो patient भी दिन में किए तो भी बहुत फर्क पड़ता है. At least we have to open our mouth and at least receive properly patient. That is matters a lot. So it is again going on individual level, sir. So it is a pharmacist. Yes, it is our different role. He has to assume and he has to serve the society. If he is thinking on that line, then it will be implemented. Otherwise, it's very difficult, sir. Because policymakers and the country like our populated, it is very difficult. So every individual has a role. Every individual has to see, I'm a healthcare team member, and then he has to apply his knowledge and he has to help to the society. Thank you so much, sir.
Right. Yeah. Dr. Shedge, there is a request for you, as we were talking about this educational regulation 2020, and you being very proactive into IPA, there is a request that we want to conduct certain activity, particularly for the faculty,
Yes, sir.
regarding training about faculty for this educational regulation 2020. So if you
Okay.
can, IPA and we at DY Patil can, collaborate with each other.
Yes, sir.
Like Saravadekar sir and people like him can also, help us and let us do something which will be open for all faculty members across the state, and we will be ready to host that event in
Yes, sir.
collaboration with you. So if
Yes,
you
sir,
can,
definitely.
yeah, please provide the
Definitely.
support. That will be great.
Yeah,
Sir,
definitely we will go ahead with this. And not only the problem is that, sir, we are only thinking about the pharmacy education about the 4 years or 6 years. We have to think beyond that, sir.
yeah,
We
true.
only syllabus about that. No, the drug design is very important. Chemistry is important. Pharmacology. We have to think about the beyond that. Instead of the technocrat, the human crat who is taking care about the humanity. That is very important, sir. So in that way, we have to think, because I feel that by working with the pharmacy, this field, we are only stick with our pharmacy. We have to add something. And psychology is very important. We are not understanding. बच्चा कहाँ से आ रहा है, कर्जत से आ रहा है, कौन से कॉलेज में कुलाबा जा रहा है, and then वो कैसा आया, क्या आया, he is taking viva. अरे क्या नहीं तुमने पढ़ाई, अरे there are so many matters. वो रात को पढ़ाई किया, सुबह तक किया, but he has catch the train and there are a lot of issues with he has reached this place, and then suddenly nobody is allowing. Settle down. Have you studied this? Okay. Can I ask this question or this? Give me the choice about your topic. No one is asking. So these are the simple things. Forget about other. We are not touching human being. We are creating
And
technocrats.
sir, that's why we want to train faculty members,
Definitely,
and
definitely,
this, yeah.
definitely. I
So
have
let us,
interest and definitely I'll come with this, sir.
let us
Thank you so
do,
much
yeah,
for-
yeah.
Yes, sir. Definitely I'll come with.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Sir,
Thank you.
Sarav, yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you, Dr. Anand Shedge, for joining.
Saravadekar, sir,
Yeah.
thank you so much. Good your topic. Thank you so much.
Saravadekar, sir, my question to you is
Yeah,
actually, the question is, you said that there is no coordination between both FDAs, right? Typically, when you are quoting about same brand names and different drugs, that point, what you were quoting, and I'm really happy. I have written a lot of things from your talk, today's talk, because this is a practical knowledge which we get. Otherwise, we are, truly typically an academician. And so my question is, why there is no coordination between these both FDAs? Why there is a great gap? Because it is very important aspect of the life.
Yeah. See, what happens now, the CDSCO, that is the Central Drug Authority, has been given a task of introducing new drugs, import licenses, and which drug has to be imported. And all manufacturing aspects has been given to the state FDA. So now the time has come. So now they are working in solos. Maharashtra state solos. So that's why this thing. So now we are in a state. This has been what I have shown you. This is government data only. Parliamentary committee report. They have found out that, and they have come out. This is in 2014. Parliamentary committee has recommended that we need to have a central database where you just click on. Now the LONA, whether it has been given to or substandard drug has been declared. So now the product declared in substandard in JJ hospital can be sold in the KM hospital. So because no database. So it is not only the trade name, the bigger fact, the ADR is suppose death like ADR is found in some vaccine, in some suppose KM hospital. So where is the data? You have to club all these data. And for that, now the pharmacovigilance sale has been come. So now our job is that all whatever ADR is coming in the hospital, we need to report it to the central database, that is Pharmacovigilance Center of the Indian government, where we are lacking. Every physician, every community pharmacist, every hospital pharmacist, all nurses have to observe for this ADR and give the data to the Pharmacovigilance Center at Delhi office. There are sites where you have to enter and there are modules given. But this is not followed seriously.
Okay.
So once that is done, so this the database is clear. So the process is going on.
Okay.
But
Okay.
the main problem is what has happened in past. So that is another. So that data has to be collected. Somebody has to put it into the one website that this is the old products which has been already marketing and the old this new data coming. That is the thing.
Sir, so we will need your help in this patient counseling center at our hospital. We as a pharmacy college would like to initiate this activity at our own hospital, and probably we will take your a lot of guidance from them. So yeah, Vidhi, any question? I mean, my questions are over. Anything if you can pick up from the chat box if you wish to. Otherwise,
Yes,
we can go ahead to a conclusion.
There's only one more.
Yeah.
What changes should we expect from current pharmacists to improve?
Pharmacists to improve. Yeah. So the first thing is that suppose the simple thing like our Dr. Shedge also said, suppose you are having old people at your home, right? So they are consuming their medicine for hypertension, diabetes. The pharmacist first of all go and look at what medicines he is taking. Your grandfather, your granddaughter, all these medicines prescribed in your hospital. Then they start counseling that home. They should advise their grandparents that these medicines has got side effects. Don't go for self-medication. So it should start at your home. Then you will come to know how you have to go about. So if it is something is happening at your home and the pharmacist is there and he is not working, what is the use of your knowledge? There is a gap. So that gap has to start from home itself. But that is not happening. So the improvement has to be start, as Dr. Shedge said, that at your level, your self level. Then you will think of society. Then second stage is society. Like if you are suppose in a society, there are 100 flats. So why not to sit in work Sunday and call all the old age patients and counsel? So 100 flats are there in the society. So I used to do it in our society. Call our patients, bring all medicines and ask them. So that will increase improve the awareness, and the public will also recognize your services. So there is a guy, pharmacist, who knows everything. Doctor doesn't have time. But then by this way, by self, like it is not only hospitals where it is required. It is not only pharmacy stores where required counseling. You can start it at your home. You can start it at your society. You can start it at your village. So these are the areas. So you have to be self-motivated.
Thank you, sir. We are done with the questions now. We'll move forward. So as we move forward to the end of
Madam,
this,
can I ask one question? Sorry.
Yeah, please.
Last question, sorry.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, sir, sure.
So Avadekar sir, now it's the era of discount. Everybody wants big, huge discount on medicine.
Yeah.
So, I have question mark on the equation that pharmacy profession is equal to discount, is lesser than discount, or is bigger than discount. How we can fight in this era of discount, sir? I mean, whether profession is needed by the community, or I mean, kindly guide us, sir.
Here, what is that? Patient education and nursing physician education is required. Now, how I did it is in JJ Hospital, I am telling. Generics. Now, this is the era of generics. Now, generic, what is the chemical equivalent generics? Paracetamol equal to paracetamol. Then, pharmaceutical equivalents, that is tablet equivalent to crocin tablet equivalent to other crocin tablet. Third is bioequivalence. What is bioequivalence? After taking the tablet, it has to reach to the blood. If it is not broken, so two generics has to be bioequivalent, not only chemical equivalent. Then it has to be therapeutic equivalent. So after taking a paracetamol tablet, whatever effect we have seen for a brand, the same effect should have to be, that would be the generic. So regarding their generics, a lot of confusions and myths have been there. So two generics can be, so discount can be given when the drugs are bioequivalent. The two drugs having bioequivalent, the two drugs having therapeutic equivalent, then only you can compare the price. How you can compare the price of apple with banana? They are not on the same level. So first of all, you have to educate on the quality of the medicine. That discount or price is not the factor. What you want is the effect. And effect will be given when the drug is having therapeutic equivalence, not only brand. Even all brands, you know that they are manufactured from third party. So that doesn't mean they will have same. So it is not a branding, and all these are a marketing. So I believe in generic, provided it is therapeutic equivalent, no brand is required, provided it is bioequivalent. So who knows all these bioequivalence, therapeutic equivalence? So what for discount? So you have to educate the physicians here, because these are all pharmaceutical marketing tactics. So what I did is when I called the tender for Maharashtra government, so that was a 400 crore medicine purchase. So what I did is that I want WHO GMP medicines, which is required for exports, right? It is not required for domestic market. So there are 3 quality products available: WHO GMP for export, domestic GMP for domestic market, and third is developed country, that is CGMP for US, Japan, America. So domestic GMP, WHO GMP, CGMP. So what is CGMP? CGMP is a current GMP, good manufacturing practices which are updated currently. What is WHO GMP? WHO GMP is GMP updated every 2 years. And domestic GMP, we don't know where it is updated. So for a particular medicine, whether it is a brand, whether it is, so I asked for WHO GMP. So I am assured that I am getting export medical case. So there was a court case against Maharashtra government in Nagpur High Court. So why are you asking for a costly medicine, export quality medicines to promote the big industries, to promote the multinationals? But I pleaded the case before Justice Lodha and said that, see, my patients are poor patients coming to JJ Hospital or all over Maharashtra. So why they don't want the export quality medicine? I am ready to pay. I am a purchaser. So the Justice Lodha gave a very beautiful judgment saying that health is wealth. So national health is a national wealth. So providing export quality medicines is of a national interest. So what we need to educate all these aspects: what is bioequivalence, what is therapeutic equivalence, what is chemical equivalence, and then talk of the price. Are you getting it? So quality has to do with so many things. Like third party medicine will get a paracetamol at 10 paise, but own license will cost you 1 rupee. Third party, because they get manufactured at very cheap price. So they get it manufactured at 2 paise, they will sell at 10 paisa, and the brand name will give it as a 1 rupee. Costing is very less. For brand, there is marketing expenses, but such a brand which is manufactured from third party, no use. There is no quality. So all these aspects are there. The price has to be not given more importance, but quality has to be given the importance. And you know, quality is a now never static. It is evolving. Like through ADR, we learn from the accidents through ADR and raise the bar of the quality standard. So that's why there is a WHO GMP, there is a CGMP. What is CGMP? Is the current GMP, most updated GMP. So the quality has to be most updated. So every pharmacist has to be emphasized on quality, not on the price. So if you emphasize it, so my minister got convinced. Even minister like Nitin Gadkari, who was the opposition leader, he called me and he said that this is done. And we are the first state in India asked for WHO. So things can be changed, but concentrate on quality. Educate the policymakers on quality. And you only know, physicians don't know about the quality. Physicians don't know about this GMP. Physicians don't know about the third party license, how this marketing is done. So like you 12, 20, 10% discount, 20% discount, 25% discount. You have to emphasize the patient. You want this medicine or quality or price. So that has to be emphasized.
Thank you. Thank you.
नमस्कार सर, अतुल बोलतोय.
That's why then your paradigm shift from product centric to patient centric. So we are coming to patient as the main, not the product. So what patient want is the quality product.
Yeah, sir, there is a question from Mr. Atul Kadam, all the way from Satara. He's talking to you. Yeah, Atul bola, Atul sir, ha bola.
नमस्कार, अतुल बोलतोय. सर नमस्कार, अतुल बोलतोय. उशिरा जॉईन झालो मी, पण छान झालं सेमिनार. ऍक्च्युली नेहमीप्रमाणे तुमची इन्फॉर्मेशन युजफुल झाली आणि आय एम थँकफुल टू सोमानी सर फॉर ऑर्गनायझिंग सच अ वंडरफुल सेशन. सर ऍड ऑन करू इच्छितो की आता सांगितले की जिथं डॉक्टरला हे नाही चान्स म्हणजे त्या अपॉर्च्युनिटी आपण जसं तुम्ही म्हणलं की आपण पेशंट काउन्सिलिंग ऍक्च्युली गोष्टी इम्प्लिमेंट करून स्टुडंटला त्या पॉईंट ऑफ व्ह्यू थोडंसं डायव्हर्ट करणं गरजेचं आहे. जसं की आता सर म्हणले की पेशंट काउन्सिलिंग सेंटर काय प्रिशेबल आहे, त्याचप्रमाणे ड्रग इन्फॉर्मेशन सेंटर प्रत्येक कॉलेज चालू करू शकतं. आणि
नाही त्याच्याबरोबर कॉलेजनी काय करायचं, कॉलेजनी ड्रग इन्फॉर्मेशन सेंटर डिस्ट्रिक्ट हॉस्पिटलला काढायचं, पब्लिक हेल्थला काढायचं. तुमच्या कॉलेजमध्ये उपयोग नाही. पेशंट कुठे आहे? सिव्हिल हॉस्पिटलला. So go to the civil surgeon, ask him. He will happily. You ask for one room. That's all. Let your MPharm students or PharmD students sit there, but you need to educate them first. Otherwise, that will spoil your image of the pharmacy profession. So first, education and patient counseling is very important. So if once that is done, so you can go to adopt some district hospital, some public health center, medical college even, and then that will be a practical experience. And that is very, I did this for 6 months in JJ Hospital, Nagpur Medical College, Miraj Medical College. This is really eye-opening.
But is it continuing, sir, at JJ or Nagpur, wherever you say it? Is it being now practiced regularly?
Unfortunately not.
That's the crux actually. You know that
that was the burden or expectation from my fellow pharmacists now. Join after me, they're not interested.
So there has to be so that's why there has to be a government mechanism or machinery which will establish the center itself, as you rightly said.
Because now it is voluntary.
So voluntary things won't work.
Nobody bother. जब तक Saravdekar hai तब तक हो गया बात.
True. I think our session, question answers are over now. And sir, I will catch you separately. I have lots of doubts in my mind, particularly about this patient counseling, and probably very soon I will see you, to take the matter ahead. Yeah. Vidhi, please.
Your hospital.
Yeah. Vidhi.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Now, as we move towards the end of this great session, I, Ms. Vidhi Solanki, student of SYD Pharm at D.Y. Patil University School of Pharmacy, would like to address vote of thanks for today's webinar, organized by the D.Y. Patil University School of Pharmacy in collaboration with D.Y. Patil Hospital Pharmacy. I would like to thank our guest speaker, Dr. Suresh Saravdekar, sir, for enlightening us by your knowledge. I would like to sincerely thank Dr. Rakesh Somani, sir, for his enthusiastic support. Heartfelt thanks to all the guests, hospital pharmacists, academicians, and students for their active participation and support. With these warm and kind words, I would like to conclude this session. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Namaskar, sir. Thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you.